Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Drawson and I'm going to be doing my refutation speech. So for this speech, me and my partner did not have the same topic. So I am going to be taking direct quotes from her paper just because she didn't do a policy speech. So in order for you guys to be able to hear what she was saying and get her exact words verbatim, I'm just going to be pulling some quotes from her original essay. Okay, so the topic is going to be universal health care, otherwise known as the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. So if you hear me say the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, they're both the same thing. Okay, so in my opponent's policy paper, she argued against universal health care and the Affordable Care Act that was signed into law by President Barack Obama in 2010. Presumably, based on her research, she claims that the problems with universal health care outweigh all of the benefits. So a few of those problems that my opponent lists is socialism. She connects socialism to universal health care. That's something that I'll be touching on a little bit later. And she also talks about the effects that having universal health care could have on the economy. I will also be touching on that one a little bit later. One of the points that she makes is the value of working for treatment. And this is a direct quote. I'm just going to take this straight from her essay. Let me quotations. It's a well-known fact that things are valued more when they have to be worked for. Why would healthcare be any different? End quote. So to that point, I do agree that in most cases, when you have to work for something, you do value it a little bit more. However, in this case, being able to afford treatment and healthcare programs and just overall, even a checkup, it's a right it should be a right, I should say, for everyone. And it's not something that everyone has the luxury of working for. People who are very sick obviously can't get up and go to work. Thus, that's the whole purpose of it needing to be free. A 5-year-old child can't get up and go to work if they need treatment. An 80-year-old woman, you see what I'm saying? So that in any other context, that it might work, but in this particular context, working for something doesn't mean that you'll value it anymore. So going on to socialism. Socialism is a topic that my partner touches on a few times. For those who don't know what socialism is, it is defined by Dr. Paul Sweezy in his book Socialism as a social system which is differentiated from any other social system by the character of its property relations. Thus, socialism properly belongs to the same species as capitalism. In more plain terms, socialism is the belief in a lifestyle where wealth is equally shared amongst the workers. So it's just like it sounds. So she links having universal free healthcare to socialism by saying they're connected. Having universal healthcare can lead to socialism. That's a point that my opponent makes in her argument. For those who don't understand what's the big deal about socialism, why wouldn't we want to? It's kind of anti-democracy. In the United States, we are a very big democracy. We need to be able to have our rich and our poor and our middle class, So socialism is very much anti that, and that's very much what the United States is all about. So we do not like socialism. And when I say we, I'm referring to the United States as a whole. So for her to link socialism and universal health care, there is no correlation between the two. So that harm that she states is invalid. There is no research, there is no officials, there's no professors who study economics that have been able to link the two. There are several countries who do offer universal health care who are not socialist countries, such as Canada. You do not have to be a socialist country to offer free health care. So that harm is invalid. Another harm that she states is the effects that that universal health care could have on the economy. This is a direct quote. She states that as of 2012, healthcare programs consist of 20% of the country's budget. This is expected to increase to 30% by the year of 2028. And she goes on to say that with current health programs taking up such a large percent of the budget and it continuing to grow, it will eventually lead to a rise in taxes. That's the end quote. So this harm, once again, I feel that this harm is invalid. Yes, 20% of the country's budget is a very big portion. It's a very big chunk of the budget. It's a lot of money, but there are other institutions that use up more than double that amount, like the military. And that's not to say that the military doesn't need those funds, because who am I to say if it does or it doesn't? However, when you're linking something to higher taxes, if you're saying that healthcare programs using up 20% of the budget can lead to higher taxes, but you're totally negating the fact that there are other institutions that use more than double that amount and it hasn't led to higher taxes thus far, it's insignificant. It's an invalid harm. So that would be kind of the harms that my opponent lists in her essay. There was no real solution, which is another issue that I have with her proposal. There was no real solution. She states, this is also a direct quote, that maintaining the policies and practices we currently have in place for healthcare are serving the needs of the United States. So basically, things should just be left the way they are. And my problem with that is saying that things are working pretty good right now, we might as well just leave them. It kind of ignores the millions of people that things aren't working for. It's not a secret that the way things are right now doesn't work for a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't able to get the treatment that they need, and they're not able to get the help that they need and the care that they need because they can't afford it. So to kind of, oh well, it works for most people, it's also, I believe, to be invalid, and it's not really a resolution to say, oh, we should just leave things the way they are, because things are not working the way that they are. And that's my stance. I feel that we should, even though this is not my policy, and I did my policy speech on a totally different topic, I did propose that we reinstate the Affordable Care Act. It wasn't perfect. It did need certain tweaks. So I feel that because this is mostly politics, if politicians can come together and kind of iron out the tweaks, I think that this country does need universal health care, especially, the climate that we're in, the times that we're in. It shouldn't take a pandemic to get that people should just be able to go to the doctor and get treatment. So that's my stance. All right, have a good night, everyone.